One of the most useful tools that you need to keep yourself safe is the ability to read the different parts of a prospect's communication to look for signs of increasing frustration, escalating excitement, and/or escalating anxiety. Communication is comprised of three components: body language, paraverbal communication, and verbal communication. Body language not only encompasses what their body is doing, their facial expressions, eye movements, hand positions, posture, etc., but also includes their body position relative to you. Paraverbal communication is all the parts of speech that are not the actual words themselves: tone, cadence or speed, and volume. Verbal communication is the actual words used in a conversation. When we are talking about reading the prospect, it is important to keep a few things in mind. First, if the prospect is meeting you for the purpose of harming you, they will likely look for a place to isolate you where you can't be seen or heard from the outside of the home. If you are following the guidelines that we discussed in our showing routine, this will be very difficult for them to accomplish, so they may become frustrated. Signs of frustration are detectable if you are observant. Secondly, when someone is preparing for an attack, their adrenal glands will increase the amount of adrenaline in their body, also known as the fight or flight reaction. This increase of adrenaline will also produce observable signs. There is no hard and fast way to determine who is and who is not a threat, nor is there a single telltale sign that someone has violent intentions toward you. However, by learning the potential red flags and assessing the situation as a whole, you will be more aware and better able to sense when a situation is escalating. Body language indicators to be aware of. The prospect is continually looking out the window. They could be evaluating the visibility to the outside. Invasion of body space, particularly uninvited touching, even if it seems accidental. Lack of eye contact. Now this is one that could be a cultural difference. In some cultures it is considered rude to look someone directly in the eyes. Remember, we are looking at the situation as a whole, and it's a series of these behaviors and/or changes in behaviors that could be an indicator of a potentially dangerous person and/or situation. What appears to be intentional positioning between you and the door or escape path. Hands in the pocket, especially large pockets in a coat. Wearing cool weather clothing in warm weather. While some people are cold-natured, we are looking for clothing that truly does not fit the scenario. Look for physical or behavioral changes that could be indicators of rising frustration, anxiety, agitation, or adrenaline. Dilated pupils. This is one of the physical indicators of an increase in adrenaline. They no longer seem to be interested in the conversation or the property in general. Their breathing goes from regular to a more rapid or more pronounced breathing. Their facial expressions go from relaxed to strained or hard. The veins become visible in their forehead or neck. Wiping hands on clothing, rubbing them together, or clenching and unclenching into fists. Fidgeting, foot tapping, snapping, pulling on collars, etc. Now let's look at the paraverbal pieces of communication, the parts of speech that aren't the actual words. When discussing the paraverbal communication, it's the changes that we want to notice. If the volume of your prospect's speech is increasing for no reason, that could be a sign of increasing frustration or agitation. If the pace of the speech starts to increase, this could be a sign of increasing excitement, but could also be an indicator of increasing anxiety or frustration, especially if it is accompanied with a change to a sharper tone, with very precise diction and/or enunciation of each and every word. Lastly, we are going to look at the verbal communication, the words that the prospect is using with you. Let's look at some red flag indicators. When they start showing more interest in you than in the house. They start issuing orders instead of requests. For example, instead of saying, "Can we see the kitchen now?" or "I'd like to see the kitchen next," they say, "Show me the kitchen." They ask you to move closer. There is an excessive sharing of personal information about themselves that seems to be inappropriate for the situation. They start using suggestive language or make double-meaning statements and/or look at you too long or in an unsuitable manner. They start complimenting you in an overly familiar and/or improper manner. They try to steer the conversation from professional to overly familiar, intimate, and/or inappropriate. If you identify a combination of behaviors that indicate the prospect is trying to escalate the meeting from professional appointment to personal encounter, and you notice isolating behaviors such as constantly looking out of windows, be particularly wary of this combination. Whenever you begin to feel uncomfortable in a situation, it is imperative that you control your emotions and remain calm. Your calm can help keep the situation from escalating, and your lack of response can make the situation less appealing to a predator because you are not giving them the emotional response they are looking for. Remaining calm and reacting calmly and deliberately also helps you to be able to focus on a way to extricate yourself from that situation safely. Remember, the predator is looking for signs of subservience, weakness, and vulnerability. By being friendly but firm in your language, not letting the conversation head towards the personal and/or inappropriate subject matter, by taking control of the conversation and steering it back to professional and appropriate subject matter, you are showing power and strength. If you cannot keep the conversation professional, then politely end the appointment. Practice possible responses to this type of situation so that you are confident when and if the situation occurs. Thank you for watching. Please use the information and tools discussed to be more aware, more informed, and safer in the field. Sell safe.